Welcome to Oxford Analytica's weekly outlook on the global geopolitical risk scene. I'm Dr. Tom Wales, Deputy Director of Analysis at Oxford Analytica, and I'm joined by Professor Desmond King, who's the Mellon Professor of American Politics at Nuffield College, Oxford. Now, Des, we've just had the President's second inaugural address. Beyond the atmospherics, which are always considerable at these sorts of events, what are the main takeaways from the speech from the point of view of our clients?
Thank you, Tom. Well, I think the atmospherics matter a little bit because it was a very self-confident performance. But once we go beneath the performance and look at what he was talking about, it's interesting that he was focusing on issues such as civil rights for gay Americans, developing sustainable energy programs, and immigration reform, and there were references to gun regulation as well. Absent was much about the economy, other than a sentence saying he thought that progress was coming along, and it's certainly a better picture than it was 4 years ago. That's the agenda. We know a lot of other things will happen, of course, as we go into the debate with the Republicans about spending and taxes.
Well, let's just go through and touch on some of these issues then. Of course, we'll get a lot more of his detailed policy agenda in a couple of weeks with the State of the Union. But how likely do we think various of these issues are to actually see meaningful movement in a policy sense, either through executive action or through the Congress? Let's look at the Congress first when it comes to, say, immigration.
Sure. Very good question. I think what's of course important is that although it was a nice inauguration speech, the political context that we saw in the election hasn't changed, and this is a very polarized and divided electorate and a political system at the center. The Republicans, who are in the majority in the House of Representatives, are not keen on most of the president's agenda. Particularly, for instance, on gun regulation and on sustainable energy programs or protecting the environment. They would like more energy programs. But the ones that probably matter the most to our clients are immigration and the budgetary resolution. On immigration, the interesting question is whether the GOP lawmakers, the Republican lawmakers, really want to do something about an issue they recognize is very costly to them politically. It's quite clear what the broad outlines of a plan would be. There would be some sort of pathway to citizenship for the 11 million undocumented illegal Americans or illegal immigrants in America. And there would be some sort of guest program, I think, on a seasonal basis established for the long term, and probably an expansion of the high-skilled H-1B visa program. I think everybody can agree to that, and there is some bipartisan support for this, more in the Senate, I think, than in the House. So I would say this is probably one of the most likely areas of reform, because there's a lot of vested interest in getting it through for a change.
Difficult for the GOP to oppose, particularly given the strong feelings of the business community on this.
Absolutely.
They want some clarity.
The business community wants stability, they want clarity. The farm sector, for instance, which is represented by the leading business organizations, really want to have a regulated program of seasonal workers. And business generally thinks it's important to have a pool of low-skilled workers who will take quite low wages for many jobs.
Now, setting aside the fiscal debate issue, because we've talked about this many, many times, let's turn to climate change. That got actually top billing among really the policy areas in the speech, and that surprised quite a lot of people. First of all, why is it a surprise? And second of all, what can happen given the balance of power in Congress?
Well, it's interesting. I think this is an area which the president has decided to make his own and to link the Democrats to it, to say we accept the international consensus on the need for sustainable climate change type policies, or policies to control climate change. And I think it's particularly interesting because it's contradicted to some extent by the rapid development of the shale and gas industry in the US, and the sorts of pressures to agreed to the Keystone pipeline to come down from Canada through the United States, which the president has sort of been ambivalent about before. So on the one hand, I think he's likely to approve this initiative, but that will disappoint some of those who think he's committed more to climate change. I suspect that there is quite a lot of things he can do by executive action through what are called executive orders, where the president doesn't have to go to Congress to get agreement.
Or existing statutes, for that matter, like the Clean Air Act.
Absolutely. He could require their enforcement and so forth. There's a new secretary coming into the Environmental Protection Agency. It's going to be quite an important area. I think there's going to be a new secretary in energy. And so there's a lot happening in this area. I think it's a good one to highlight on. And within Congress, this is an area where there's a stark line between the Democrats and the Republicans. And again, so it'll be very difficult to get legislation on this.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Please stay tuned for more of our weekly updates. I'm Tom Wales here with Des King. Thank you very much.